or make you laugh, make you cry like Ain't Life Funny. Ugh.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Matt. Welcome to week 21 of the Ain't Life Funny podcast. I hope you guys are all doing well. We're going to be doing something a little bit different this week. Unfortunately, Aaron just couldn't we couldn't do a recording this week. Miss you, Aaron. I hope you're doing okay. But we thought, in Aaron's absence, that we could bring on a guest as somebody who I've been friends with for over a decade out here in Los Angeles. He's a super cool guy. Aaron and I both love him to death. He's like a brother to us. And he's just a great all-around dude. So without further ado, let's welcome Sean to the podcast as the first and maybe only co-host ever of the Ain't Life Funny podcast. Fucking insanity for me because on top of, I'm blessed to still have a job, and I think you're in the same boat, Sean. You're still been able to work from home, correct?
That's right.
Yeah. So like for me, that's been great. And for me, everything's actually been going well for me in that regard. But yeah, man, like a lot of people I know having health issues. I just actually talked to one of my buddies that lives in Echo Park in Los Angeles. They didn't have power from like Friday until just like a couple hours ago.
What?
Yeah, like of course, like during the most hot ass fucking time in LA history.
Yeah.
For it all in Echo Park, which to be honest, the rent might be high, but that place is a dump, dude. Fuck off.
Oh yeah. It's not it doesn't have the best parts of town in it. I can say that.
I mean, it's like, I guess if you're like looking at the actual lake and the park and you can somehow not see the thousands of crackheads that surround it, it might be beautiful.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the backdrop of everything. I was just the other day on YouTube, I saw that at Venice, there are homeless people set up on the boardwalk now. So it's almost becoming like the backdrop. Though? Oh yeah, I mean, I'm surprised it hasn't been sooner on Venice boardwalk. But I mean, like, that's where the vendors are, and you got a tent instead of a vendor. That's just the fact that it's allowed.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what's crazy about, especially living in LA. I think it's kind of interesting to have you on this week and get kind of a different perspective because obviously Aaron. Other than like the conspiratorial shit he likes to go into, he's living in like a different area, Now he's up in he actually is living like so like
oh, wow.
that kind of area. And so he's more of a rural, he sees like the shit going on in that type area. And I've been talking to my parents, and I mean, honestly, somebody in our family just got COVID and shit. So it's just like one of those things where it's, unfortunately, that doesn't seem like it's one of those cases where they just didn't know they had it type things. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. But in terms of living in LA, I'm interested to hear from your perspective because you've lived here a long time, man. Like, you've lived here longer than I have. And I consider I've been here a fucking long time too. We've both been kind of digging our way through the trenches out here for a while, but you like where you used to live in North Hollywood is like a fucking war zone now, dude.
I wish they all could be California girls.
Fuck out of this neighborhood.
It is.
You kind of lucked out and got out of that place because right now, I mean, from what I've heard, it's like pandemonium down there. Anywhere near that subway stop is just like America's anus has opened up right above that thing.
No, it's crazy. That area, I've heard that there's stabbings and shootings all the time. And before, like when I lived there, I haven't lived there since 2016. But when I lived there for 8 years total, from 2008 to 2016. And that was when it was nice. They had just started like all of the crime and everything out a few years earlier. And then by 2008, it was kind of normalizing as this little trendy sort of area. And that kept up. And then after we left, and when the homeless situation started getting out of control and it started spreading into that area, that's when the crime started going up too. I'm not saying that's why, but it was just at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, and believe me, like where we live, because you lived in NoHo, and then like me and Aaron lived deeper into the valley in Van Nuys, which if you want to talk about an asshole of a place, that's the ultimate. That's the center of it. But like if you go to where we used to live, and I mean, I haven't even gone there during the pandemic, so this is pre-pandemic. That place looked like fucking Baghdad, like 2003 Baghdad. It was just like right in that area, you know, there was the courthouse, that civic center area, which you'd think would actually kind of be sort of controlled and nice around there because that's where all like the judicial shit's going on in the valley, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it got worse and worse. And to the point now, I mean, they were building new places and we got priced out of that area, but good luck to any of those fucking people trying to gentrify that spot now because there's probably just people setting people on fire and shit. Like,
how do you get priced out of that area?
I
mean,
know.
That's
That's what I mean. Like, fuck that. I mean, and what's crazy is, Sean, like you moved north and I moved south, and I love where I live. I live about 10 minutes from the beach, if that, if you're driving. Like we jog to the beach on Sundays, every Sunday.
Wow, that's nice.
So it's nice, but I'll tell you what, dude, like even that homeless problem, that's creeping in down here now too. Like it's getting so far out of where it used to be sort of, you'd see it in like Hollywood, which is a pit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everyone wants to go there, but it's a pit.
Yeah.
And then, like there wasn't like I mean, there was homeless people in the valley, but the valley's huge. So, I mean, you would see them and whatnot, but it was just like, okay, this is some like Hollywood trash that got up here. But now
Yeah.
it's like, I work near the airport and I figured, you know, like when I worked there, it was pretty bad, like over on Century Boulevard and like La Cienega.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I had to go to my office like less than a week ago, and I drove down La Cienega like north on it, and bro, if you right as soon as you get past Century Boulevard on La Cienega and you're going north, there's a hotel, like a huge like Holiday Inn, I think, and then right after that they were like vacating old like what I guess were like rundown apartment buildings, so they just like scorched the earth. They just bulldozed everything and put a big fence around probably 6 city blocks worth of property.
Jeez.
So
Wow.
but I mean, which is crazy enough, but all around that fence is like the most architecturally sound homeless abodes that I've ever seen. I told Kendra when I came back, I'm pretty sure I saw a guy with a 2-story fucking shanty.
You know what? I have seen those before. If you in downtown in the Skid Row area, well, anywhere in downtown really, but especially Skid Row. I think that's where they get the mansions. You know, they get the cul-de-sac encampments. You get the corner encampment in downtown on Skid Row.
Like they got a little den and shit, like a library and whatnot. It's like, what the
They
fuck?
got a loft.
These guys got more square footage than I got. What the fuck?
Yeah, I have seen those 2-story gigs that they've set up.
I mean,
it's crazy what human beings can do, man. We're the most ingenious group on the planet.
yeah, I mean, actually, if you want to be positive about it, it's like, god damn, I think now that they have like free reign and the cops don't really fuck with them as much, I mean, they're definitely finding out. Maybe they got some showers set up, you know, like they might have figured out some next level homeless shit that, you know, in a couple months we might all be joining them. We might all. If this happen, we might have to find one of these like wise old homeless Obi-Wan Kenobi types to teach us how to build this shit.
Right. Now I'm rewatching the Walking Dead right now, and I keep thinking that that show doesn't go far enough because I'm like, humans are way more industrious than this, man. Like, look at what the homeless can do currently. Like, you take away all of modern civilization, we'll have it all back up and running in about 12 days. We'll have a janky version of it, but we'll have it.
It's all fucked up, but they're like, yeah, we got penicillin, we got plenty of that, so we got something to build off of.
Right. I boil these roots in the river. And see, Bob sits on them for a couple hours, and that gets all the fermentation.
If I think about it, Walking Dead, you would like, why isn't there like some like yoked ass homeless guy who's just basically the fucking god of the zombie apocalypse? Because they're built for that. They've been living it already. Like somebody on Skid Row is basically living in one. Like they probably bite each other. There's probably some homeless guy that bites people that you got to avoid. You know, they're fighting. It's
Well, you got to
probably
just mix in. You got to mix in a little meth into your equation, and that'll answer it for you.
I'm not right. We got little, like a few more months of quarantine before what that goes on. Where I'm like, you know what? All bets are off. Let's get the meth out. What's all that hubbub about?
No, I'm saying that's why that's why the homeless aren't taking over, because they're on drugs. So like, you could be the biggest jacked homeless guy and rule the streets, but unfortunately you like crack. So, that's why you're homeless too, because you like crack.
All his buddies are like, I just don't know how Zeus ain't the king of the world. Oh wait, he's doing some crack right now. I got it. He's smoking that rock. But as somebody who's lived in LA as long as you have, and you've seen like you said, you saw that one area kind of build up and always like actually kind of deteriorate before you left or right after you left. Do you think LA is going to ever return to what LA was pre-pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, it will. I just don't know when that's going to happen. But
Yeah.
I think it will, because we've seen this before in cities. The most recent one I can think of is New York City in the 90s. You know, in the 80s, New York City was a hellhole. It was very dangerous. It's a lot like, if you want to get really freaked out, go look up news reports on YouTube from the 80s about New York City and the crime, and look up news today about New York City and the crime, and it's the same. Just random people, random old women getting stabbed on the street and in the subway for no reason. Yeah, but then what happened in the 90s, Giuliani came in, and I'm not like a hero, I'm not praising Giuliani, I'm just, history lesson. Giuliani came in, and he got tough, and he cleaned things up, and it was a lot better. So that'll happen with LA. Right now, our leadership is kind of bad. Eric Garcetti, the mayor, is not doing anything about anything. He's ribbon cutting, but he's not actually like doing anything. He can't even clear out a block of trash in downtown. There was like a news report. There was I think 1 or 2 blocks of just garbage that was sitting down there for months. Surprised. Yeah. So like, it's just poor leadership, but it takes time. But there's going to be a return, I think. What do you think?
I mean, as far as like LA, like the infrastructure, I think like that is obviously there's some sort of money that's always going to be part of LA that's not going to let that die, at least like slowly, in the way that I think we'll get over this pandemic and that'll all still be there. But I'm just wondering from like the standpoint of the industry that makes this place a home, where film and TV and entertainment's kind of, LA's sort of a conduit to the world for all that stuff from America. I mean, obviously there's other centers for that in the US, but I'm wondering if, and we can kind of go deeper with this with the movie industry specifically, but like, I'm wondering if like any business that's going through tough times right now, they're figuring out ways to do things alternatively, I'm assuming. I'm assuming there's some films that are being filmed and there's some TV shows that have figured it out. So I think, that's going to continue, but I think that they might be figuring out ways to not be in LA where it's so expensive to film. I mean, when we were making stuff and we're still creating, and you're involved in entertainment in a way, and I think you still sort of have your finger on the pulse more than I do. But in terms of what's going to be left when there is no COVID, but everyone's figured out how to film something without being in LA centered, it's maybe not going to be the central place anymore. I'm wondering if that's going to kind of change what this city's all about,
Yeah, I mean, that's there's actually, I was just talking about this the other day, that not only the filming costs that are in LA and California, but also the increased costs that COVID are going to add on to budgets into pictures from now on. And actually, we just saw something on a big budget set recently that has been kind of the producer's nightmare of what's going to happen in this post-COVID world. Robert Pattinson on The Batman tested positive for COVID.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, just for everybody listening, the reason why that's bad is because, you know, your lead actor gets something, nobody can work. You know, your key grip gets COVID. Who cares? I'll get a new one. I can get
Yeah,
anybody. I
that's
can
true.
get somebody to redo that. Who is going to replace Robert Pattinson and whoever else he came into contact with? So anybody on camera, you know, that gets COVID can delay a production indefinitely. That could be millions of investor dollars that's gone. I mean, what if Pattinson's COVID case doesn't clear up right away? How long are we
Yeah.
going to delay shooting, and how much money does that cost?
I mean,
So
like
it's
1 week, if you just like lose a week, I mean, that's got to be astronomical for like a Batman movie when they're filming.
Oh, of course. And what about like, okay, so we lose a week now, so it's going to take us like, you know, that's going to add on, let's say 10 days on the back end, right? Unfortunately, we only have Pattinson up until right when his contract expires because he's going to go shoot something else. So now, when do I shoot that last 10 days that I lost?
Yeah,
You know?
that's even
Right.
crazier. I've actually, and also you were saying like just the added cost of the testing and stuff. I did read an article that said it's for like a, you know, a major movie of whatever. I don't remember what the actual budget that was cited, but it could add like up to $1 million to a budget.
Oh my
easily,
gosh.
you know?
Yeah.
Because you got to have a nurse, and then you got to pay for all the tests, and how expensive are the tests? And it isn't just one test. Some of these places, the things that I've read that movies are doing is they're doing like the NBA style, where they're putting everything into a bubble. The whole crew, the cast, everyone goes into a hotel someplace, and you're basically just in movie jail, where you just have to film this movie, and you can only be in these areas. You can't go, you know, it's kind of like the NBA bubble. So that's one way that they're doing it. But it just seems to be an impossible task. There's so many moving parts in a movie. You know, they bring this guy in, there's this guy, all the shit. And it just, like you said, if your star gets it, I mean, god damn. Thank God it isn't some movie where it's like, you know, some old man. But I mean, even like we saw, I mean, sad news too, another like horrible tragedy for the movie world. But somebody like Chadwick Boseman, who nobody knew was sick, at least I didn't. And I haven't heard anybody be like, yeah, I knew. It seems like he was just kind of like suffering in silence and that, just going through what he was going through and just, you know, making these great movies. But somebody like that, you know, he couldn't be an actor. If just having COVID around and you have that guy attached, or somebody that had cancer like me, it's like they can't even do that shit. So you might have
Right.
to just scrap the movie altogether or get a new star or some shit. It's like crazy.
Yeah, that's 100% true. I didn't even think of, like you were saying, with someone with a health condition that might have to be considered, because that's definitely a big deal. Also, think about how it's hard to tell for the future, but look at how it's going now. Because let's say we have a TV show that we shoot in Vancouver, and up there COVID is fine, so we have our cast and crew, and they're all good. But we need to bring in a guest star, and they're in Los Angeles. And so what, we're gonna bring them to Vancouver, quarantine them for 2 weeks, make sure they don't have COVID, and then shoot with them. So like,
Yeah.
we got to bring a guy here and pay him for 2 weeks to do nothing, just to make sure that they're clean. I mean, it's weird, it's wild.
And it also now and we can kind of like go off this, because I don't think, as far as like LA goes, I do think it's going to get significantly like, it's definitely not going to be peak whatever you want to call peak LA in the past like decade. I mean, we've lived here, and to be honest, like a lot of the shit, it seems like a lot of shit was thriving. Like the comedy scene was thriving. All these movies were making billions of dollars, mostly huge, you know, Marvel movies and stuff. But everything seemed to be kind of like going well. But I think, especially with the movie industry in LA, I don't know, man. Like, I'm gonna have to stay here. I was gonna actually ask you this too. Like, did you ever consider, through all this stuff that's going on, like not staying here anymore?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of wild that you say that. I guess now I have to say something because you asked. This is like really not when I was planning.
Yes.
To say it.
Scoop.
But, without mentioning, you know, the company or anything, but the people I'm working with looks like they'll be moving to Nashville.
Oh,
And
shit.
and the thing is that they kind of gave a presentation about why Nashville, and comparing it to Los Angeles and all that. And so they ended it by inviting me to come along. And so I said yes. But
Damn, dude.
this will be, next year. So it's nothing current, coming up now. But this is like this week. So that's why you haven't heard anything
Wow, dude. Congrats. Well, fucking hell yeah, dude.
yet.
Congrats.
Thanks.
I mean, you
Well,
missed Aaron. You literally missed Aaron by like a month.
Exactly.
You motherfucker. Yeah, I see what you did. You just waited. You were like, you know what? Let me get that crazy motherfucker out of there.
Well, it's the funny part is that, like you said, I've been here a long time. I moved here. We moved here in 2005, so it's been 15 years. I've spent my entire adult life in LA, and I feel like this is home. I don't feel like where I'm from is home. If people ask me where I'm from the rest of my life, I'll say Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So leaving this way, it's not like I'm saying, yes, I get to leave Los Angeles. I actually feel like I'm being pushed out of my home, that I have to leave to thrive in my industry, because the job growth here is not what it used to be. It's they were saying that in the statistics that they gave us last year, homicides were up by 12%, but arrests were only up by 1%. And the cost of living here is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at apartments now, and it's like I'm waiting for this so-called reduction in rents at some point, because my job, I'm not really sure. I think this might be something that might be getting revisited, because I don't know if you were considering it before your job brought it to your attention, but honestly, dude, like, just the allure of living here right now is not what it was. Like, I haven't been here as long as you have, but I definitely have, this place like molded me. I've been through some shit out here, and
Right.
I really, like you, I kind of have begun to feel like it's my home. It hasn't always like treated me well, but I do like I said, I just kind of have become a man here. And it is tough to say that I just really don't like living here as much. Like and that's with a wife that I love, and I have a nice situation down here, a good job, but just when there's nothing to do in this city and you can't really go anywhere, do the things you enjoyed, or even go see your friends without some sort of discussion or whatever, and the price of rent is just so fucking I mean, just for something like what we're trying to get, like let's say $2,000 a month, that's not shit, dude. Even
Right.
you think, like, to me, $2,000 a month is, I can't even believe I can kind of consider affording it, which I'm blessed to be able to do that, but it's like I'm not getting goddamn shit for it. It's not. I could live in a house someplace else. So I mean, it's just kind of something that we've been considering, but we just don't. I don't have that opportunity. We'll see. I mean, I'm working in sales right now. I'm not even in entertainment, so I could sell some shit anywhere. I've actually been doing well doing it. So, and that's from my apartment. So whether my apartment's here or Nashville, or I was considering moving to like Colorado, actually.
Yeah. Why Colorado?
I always had just sort of an attraction to Colorado. I've never really been able to have any sort of reason to move there other than just thinking it was a cool place. I still do. I read Hunter S. Thompson, basically my whole adult life. And that was like his home base was in Colorado, and a place that I wouldn't live, but just Colorado in general has always had like this fascination in me. So I know people that live there. I actually do, like, the business that I work for. I work regularly with this guy from Denver, and I know a guy personally that lives in Denver, and I don't know. It just seems like someplace out there. I want more space, and it seems like just a cool, beautiful place to live where it might be a little more quiet, but still there might be an opportunity there that I wouldn't necessarily have if I moved to, where my parents live in Virginia or some really small town or something. So it was never anything concrete, but I've always just loved that. The people I've talked to have always said how cool it is. I will be honest, marijuana is legal there, so that I would love to just continue to have access to that. It's something I definitely enjoy. So,
Amen.
other than that, I think just the opportunity to move to a beautiful place and sort of, I have a job. So if I can enjoy my personal life a little bit more and just be able to, I never thought I'd say this, but just the idea of having like more property, like more space to kind of stretch
Yeah.
out. And I can't have kids, at least naturally, because of what I went through, but like maybe start a family and adopt a kid or something is something we've talked about. And I don't really want to, you know, that's another question I wanted to ask you actually, but just like I never knew I wanted to be a parent, but I'm sort of realizing that I kind of do. And how has that changed? Because you have children, you have an older daughter and a younger son. How has that changed, like for you? Like, has that made living in LA even more of a negative, like having to have them and worrying about them too?
You know, it's it's like yes and no, because the reason I say yes is because you say, well, I live in a big city and I want to make sure that I avoid these areas or I keep them in this area or whatever, you know, but that's any place on earth. So,
Yeah, that's
you know, I
true,
can,
right?
you know, yeah. So to me, like it's like, that's not exclusive to LA or to a big city. I think any parent anywhere always wants their kid to be in the safest, best place around them, you know? So, I thought about that, but then at the same time, I'm like, yeah, that's all parents. All parents worry about their kids. I can tell you that I really liked being in LA with kids, and it's not just because it's LA, but partially because it's LA, but because I like the idea of raising them around culture and access to culture and access to not the cliche use of diversity, but I mean truly diversity, meeting people from other places and interacting with them and seeing their culture. Because you know where I'm from, and you know we're from similar kind of rural areas,
Yeah.
and there wasn't a lot of culture where I'm from as far as in all of the cultures of the world. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the idea that they can have such access to that, but at the same time, that's just part of the puzzle, you know, and you can't stay only for that,
Yeah, I mean,
you know.
and especially like I think if you're a parent in LA, like all those things that I would think are like, oh, you're in LA, it's like so dangerous. But like you said, you know, that's going to be the case no matter where you're at. You're just you want your kids to be okay. So
Right.
it's not
Yeah.
like you're like strap up, kids.
Flak jackets on.
We going to Van Nuys, yo.
I mean, I can tell you that like the part of town you live in definitely will change, because for example, where we used to live that we just talked about in NoHo, that was great for us, and one of the reasons that we picked that neighborhood was because it was not child friendly. Because when we moved in, we did not have kids, and we're like,
Yeah, no.
we want to celebrate that we don't have kids. We want to be in walking distance of the bars and the theaters and all the stuff families can't just do. and then after we had our daughter, we're like, okay, so now we're shifting. We're in a different phase. This area is not conducive to raising our kid.
Yeah.
So we have to find a different area that is. And it's not like that was a sad thing, because we knew when we had a kid that was going to be the end of that area. And so, you know, we moved on.
Do you like where you live now? Do you think like that was a dope move?
Oh yeah, I absolutely love it. We're out in, you know, Santa Clarita, and I really just like the area and the people that I've met. And so my experience has been great. It's you know, it's a really nice place. It's not that NoHo was bad or anything. I liked it when I lived there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think of that. You know, it's like you're in it. I was like when we were doing shit. I loved like living there because we could all meet up. It was like kind of centralized. It's just weird. Like I remember when we did go into the valley the last time, we were over like by the subway station, and I mean that Panera's gone. You know,
Yeah,
like,
I can't believe that's gone.
you sit, you kind of, you know, when some like older shit gets torn down or whatever, you're like, you know, I was old. It sucks, but that's not my thing. But it's like weird that we've been here so long that the shit that's just like a personal landmark for us, it's like, yeah, that's gone now.
Right.
Yeah, hit the old dusty trail. Like, I gotta get out of here. But it's
Back in
weird.
Back in 2006, they had a Panera. It used to be right there in the corner.
We found
All the homeless.
sketch over here. I took a headshot right over by that piece of rubble over there where that homeless guy's taking a shit.
You see that transvestite turning tricks? That used to be the #1 metro stop in Los Angeles.
She was in a video we did, but she was a he at that time. So, I was watching one video. Do you remember when we shot that John Travolta thing? And
I was
you
just
got
gonna
that
say,
guy.
the Thigs guy.
Like, what the fuck, dude? I want to be an actor. The only problem is I can't read or pronounce words correctly. Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna make this work. So, LA is so crazy, dude. So, like, now, do you think? Okay, so back to the movie thing. All these movies are getting pushed, and we're still getting news about, there was a trailer for this Batman movie before Pattinson got tested for COVID. So everyone's getting all excited about this shit. And I've heard all these cool ideas for movies, like something personally to me that I heard that really made me excited was somehow Michael Keaton, like they're going to get Michael Keaton to play Batman again in a movie. And I think it's basically, from what I understand, because DC compared to Marvel has been sort of like this shit show. They can't seem to ever get something cohesive together. And that seems to be what they wanted to do. So Marvel had this whole like world building thing, and they tried to do that, but then they cut up the legs out from all these projects and never really got it started. I think Wonder Woman was kind of a success and still continues to be. But other than that, like Justice League was a shit show. All the Superman and Batman movies that they made after Bale was a shit show. But what they're trying to do is almost acknowledge all these different versions that they've created and maybe make like a multiverse thing so that it's just, Pattinson's going to be a Batman, but there's all these, like Ben Affleck's going to be Batman in it too and shit. So as some sort of comic book nerd, that makes me feel like hopeful, but I don't ever see them making this shit.
Well, I actually have a theory about why DC's movies are as bad as, or not as bad as they are as far as in the movie. The quality, that's subjective, of course. But I mean, why it's bad, why it performs bad financially. And I think it's because DC, Warner Brothers, they're more interested in propping up their comic books, not comic books, their video games, than they are the movies. Because if you look at the success of the DC video games, they are if you look at the DC video games versus the Marvel video games, they are what DC in the video game world is what Marvel is in the movie world.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so like you just go look up their profits for DC video games, and because it's like the Injustice and all that kind of those those video games, those are all DC. And when you watch their movies, the story sucks, the characters are not developed, and the action doesn't look like good like Marvel action. It looks like video game action. So they're just basically using the movies, I think, as commercials, trailers for the video games. And they're like, well, we don't really give a damn about the movies because whatever. We're trying to make something that's going to prop up our video games.
I mean, that's interesting. And I mean, but that almost is like more intuitive than what I think they're doing because, they're making these decisions, right? So they had Zack Snyder, the director, for like a Batman movie and Justice League. And for all those, to me, as somebody who has been in film, like a film, wanting to be a true filmmaker and tried and, went to film school, just been a fan of film, Zack Snyder was the biggest, like, blue ball director of all time because to me, he made that Dawn of the Dead remake.
Mm-hmm.
I love that fucking movie.
Me too.
Oh, everyone loves the original, and I do too. It's kind of a time capsule movie that if you watch now, it's kind of hard. I mean, it's not as good, I don't think, but.
For me, that movie, I mean, not to cut you off, but just real quick to say about that point, because I agree with you 100%. Zack Snyder's is my favorite. And to me, the reason I explain it is because he can tell that story better to me now than George Romero can because it's not the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah, hell yeah.
So it's just different storytelling, different era. And Romero's version of the 70s is not the same as Snyder's, and Snyder's was scarier to me. That's all.
And it was,
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
but he added more. He added shit. You know, he changed it. He didn't just do like a shot-for-shot remake. He made the zombies different, which I thought was kind of cool. He had like,
Yes.
he made them run, and he did these cool, kind of more intense things. And that was, to me, when I saw that, it was another movie that when I was thinking about wanting to make movies, it showed up. I loved it. I saw it in the theater with my homies. I waited. I mean, it was still in the time where you had to wait a while for the movies to come out on DVD or whatever. And I just waited for that movie, and I just kept remembering how good it was. But then, like, everything else that motherfucker has made, with, I'll say, the exception of The Watchmen, which I enjoyed, but I know a lot of people didn't. I thought, you know, I don't know. It's hard to really judge movies that are based on comic books that are so, like, it's like a Bible for some people. Like, the Watchmen comic is like a fucking tome for comic book nerds, you know. They don't want to fuck with that. I thought it was cool, and I thought at the time he had sort of innovated some ways to show superheroes and their powers and stuff that was interesting to me, using like slow motion and stuff that now seems kind of like overused. But
definitely, yeah.
Everything he's done is kind of just been like a jerk off where you're like, oh, that shit looks dope, and then it comes out and you're like, that shit was not good at all. Like, that was not what I wanted. But anyway, that being said, he was brought on to make these DC movies, and to the point that I don't know what the situation was where he left Justice League as the director. They hired that other guy, I can't even remember his fucking name right now. He made a couple Marvel movies. He's Joss Whedon, that guy. He got brought on to like finish the movie, but now they're re-releasing Zack Snyder's version of Justice League. Now it could be a money grab, but they're spending legit money to, doctor it up and get it to where it's a finished product. Where they're even reshooting scenes. So
wow.
It's like, I don't know who's making the decisions, but it doesn't seem like, maybe it's just there's not one person that's been consistent. Like, they get fired and then they bring somebody else in and they have a different vision and they get fired, and by the end of it, it's just a fucking like shit show. But
that's what this feels like. This situation with the Zack Snyder release of Justice League, or is it Justice League or Batman Superman? Which one is?
I think it's Justice League.
Justice League. Okay, so I mean that's what it feels like, because they're not evil geniuses to the point where they masterminded this entire controversy, right. And now it's the culmination is releasing it finally. So I think, it smells more like what you're saying, that it's just leadership change. But that's why I have my theory about the movies, that they don't really care as much, because what Marvel does is not a secret, and it's not hard to figure out, even if it was a secret. They invest time in their characters. They make you care about their characters, and then they bring them together. And this is the course of a 20-year plan that someone came up with, right? So it's not difficult to see how they're doing it. But if your concern is financial, and I think that's why there's a lot of disconnect between the public and studios, because their goals are different. A studio's goal is to turn profit for shareholders, whereas a moviegoer's goal is to see a good movie. Sometimes those two interests line up and sometimes they don't.
Well, I'll tell you, those interests have not lined up a lot recently for me. A lot of them, some trash movies that honestly make me hopeful, because I'm still actively like writing scripts that I can someday at least write something that's better than some of the shit. I've seen some goddamn shit through this pandemic where, we had HBO Go. I started rewatching some shit from back in the day. Like we talked about this on the podcast, me and Aaron, but I remember when I was in like junior high or whenever it came out. You remember the movie Twister?
Oh yeah.
Remember how fucking big that movie was? How epic like how much press that got and how popular it was?
It was a riot at Universal forever. It might still be.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. But that being said, have you watched Twister?
Not recently, but like maybe 10 years ago.
As somebody who loves Bill Paxton?
I always get those two confused.
I think it's Pullman. God rest his soul, because he's dead now.
Right.
That guy. I love that guy. He's a great director. He actually made a movie called Frailty. It's
Frailty, yep.
It's a great movie.
Yep.
He's in this movie, right? They have all these talents. They have Philip Seymour Hoffman, him, the chick, what's her name? Helen Hunt. All these people. The acting and writing of this movie is something, I mean, it's porn level. They just got a budget from Universal, but like, I couldn't believe, I was like, I thought this was good. I smoked weed now as an adult, and I guess like I must have been on some heavier shit back then to think that was some good shit. Because I mean, I was blown away because I presented that to my wife, and I was like, "You have no idea. You've never seen this? I can't believe it. Like, let's watch this because I've done that once before with her, and that's how I think I realized she was, the right one. I showed her Jackie Brown. She'd never seen it.
Okay.
I was like, okay, this is dangerous. I don't want to show it. I don't want you to fucking hate it, but she liked that. So I was like, okay, you got good taste. So that being said, I presented Twister in the same way. I was like, don't worry about it. I had this tape. I watched this movie like a course of a summer. I must have watched that movie with my friends like a dozen times. It is a huge piece of shit, and I am sorry to the makers of that movie, Bill Pullman and the Paxton. I am sorry to you, and rest in peace. But that movie is awful.
Well, I'm gonna see your Twister, and I'm gonna raise you Face Off and Con Air.
Oh no, Face Off. I mean, I have to watch that one. Con Air. Now in my head, when you said that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. The virus, though, dude. Come on, John. How did they get John Malkovich in that? Like, does he just not say no?
I was going to say they paid him in U.S. dollars. That's how they got John Malkovich.
John, we have upwards of $20. Oh, yes. We didn't even tell you what it was. It's fine. I'll take it.
Will there be craft services?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Can I sleep on the set? Are you homeless? Don't worry about it.
That wasn't my question. Never answer a question with a question.
Yeah. God, well, I'm not surprised. I mean, you're saying that, okay, no. Face Off's John Woo, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Sean, how can a movie about a cop and a serial killer whose faces get switched, how could that go wrong? Are you telling me that this isn't a quality movie like I remember?
It's one of these where I remember being a kid and just absolutely loving that movie. Yeah. And now as an adult, I'm watching and I'm like, okay, did maybe the Mandela effect happen? And I watched a different Face Off when I was a kid. And this is the Face Off from the other universe that collided into ours.
It's like the Walmart version where they cut all this. You're like, wait, there was cursing in this. There was fucking cursing in this.
The made-for-TV version.
Yeah, right.
That's
but
that was always the best. Was Pulp Fictions. Did you ever hear Pulp Fiction when they used to play movies back in the Stone Age when they used to play movies on TV? Did you ever see the made-for-TV Pulp Fiction?
I don't know. I remember there was a movie where the dubbing that they put on it was like something so absurd where it almost made the movie better because you were laughing at it. But no, I don't think I have. I don't think I've seen Pulp Fiction.
So they would say,
like, what the fuck do they show?
Well, they cut a lot out, but they would substitute melon farmer. So, like, for example, I'm a mushroom cloud laying melon farmer.
You're a smart motherfucker. That's right. You're a smart little sucker. That's right.
Go home, jerk off, and that's all you're gonna do. Go home, cool off, and that's all you're gonna do.
My eyes are wide fucking open. My eyes are wide focused open.
It's just like wrong. It's just wrong.
Melon farmer.
Like, there was some like the guy who they used his voice was in the booth. Like, what? Are you kidding? Like, I think dubbing Samuel L. Jackson's voice. You are, man. These are his words.
I think that what happened is, and I don't know, I'm either making this up or I read it, but either way, it sounds really good. So let's just say it's true.
This guy gets it.
That Tarantino just thought dubbing was the stupidest fucking thing he'd ever heard. So he put absurd dubbing in. That's kind of like a Trey Parker, Matt Stone approach, the South Park creators, that whenever they're faced with some kind of censorship, they just go as absurd as they can. to show how absurd it is. And I think that's probably what he did. And I mean, at least that sounds like something he would do, right?
I mean, I want to believe that, you know. I want to believe that there's like somebody like him who I think is like a god of filmmaking, has that kind of creativity where they're like mischievous, where they know they have eyes on them too. So like, this is gonna be hilarious. Watch this. Like, and they have that amount of power where, you know, no one's gonna say no to Quentin Tarantino when bottom line, because, you know, I mean, now he doesn't have, you know, obviously he's not using the Weinstein Company as just a money faucet, but anybody's going to pay that guy to make a movie, you know, like if he wants to make something, somebody will give him money to make that movie. So,
yeah. Well, now that's an interesting segue into a question I would like to ask you, because Tarantino is, you know, he's one of these filmmakers who's big on the presentation of the film. He wants it to play on the giant screens and shoot on 70 millimeter and all that sort of thing. With COVID potentially taking out so many theaters across the country, do you think that Tarantino will be able to make a movie the way he wants to again? Because I think he's one of these guys that if he can't make it the way he wants, he won't make it. So if they say, look, Quentin, we're not doing 70 millimeter bullshit film because there's no screens in America that can hold this, you know, it's financially doesn't make enough sense. If he runs into that, I think he would just retire before he started scaling down his productions. So do you think that maybe we're going to see some filmmakers kind of walk away from the table?
I think maybe I think he's right there. He could choose to do what you just said, where he could say, you know what, fuck this. This isn't what I do. This is something else. Like, I feel like maybe guys like a Scorsese, or, you know, maybe even not him, because he made that Irishman movie, which I've never seen. But I mean, he's done something where it was just presented on a streaming service. So I don't know, man. I mean, for him, maybe it is like almost like a purity of the art, where, you know, like you said, he has specific things that he wants to, you know, whatever it is, he wants to shoot on film instead of digital. He wants to do what you said instead of shooting on normal 35 millimeter and stuff like that. So that's interesting. I with him, I don't know. I almost feel like because he has a relationship with Robert Rodriguez, like what I assume, maybe it's not, but, you know, they used to be like connected at the hip for a while. So I'm assuming or hoping he learned a lot of lessons being around that guy, seeing what he does. And I mean, he was part of a movie that was shot completely digital, and he helped Robert Rodriguez film a scene in like Sin City, the original Sin City. So he has experience doing things on digital mediums where maybe he can sort of embrace that for the right project. But I don't think he's going to get out of bed unless it's exactly, you know, if it's not going to be the format he wants, it's going to be the story he wants. He's not going to have any, you know, interference in that way, which I'm wondering if he ever has any interference on that part of it. You know, I don't know if anybody has the balls to be like, you know what, I don't think this writing's that good. We're going to bring in somebody else. You know, I don't think that ever happens on one of his movies. So
yeah, it's not with the script.
like, you know, but that's interesting. I don't know. That's kind of goes along with what I was saying about LA in general and just the movie industry. It's, you know, right now they have a plan for these movies that they've set on their agenda already, right? But what happens if this continues, or like all these, whatever theaters get laid to the wayside? Is there going to be a market for these big budget extravaganza movies when the only thing that people are going to get, like the only outlet to sell it is, you know, when you stream it, what they're offering right now as an option is, I guess they're releasing in whatever theaters they can, but like 5 days later, they're streaming these things for like $30 a pop or whatever the cost is. So, you know, for one person, if whatever they're asking you to pay, it's probably relevant to whatever the price of a movie ticket is. But if you got a whole family paying one flat rate to watch a new movie at home, I mean, how much money are you losing on that deal?
Oh, I mean, the amount of money that studios are losing due to this. It's not just even because of the theaters, because when they make these movies, the profit models that they put out are like over a decade. So they're expecting to make money over different phases of the release, over different release windows. So I've got theatrical, and I've got streaming, and I've got VOD, I've got straight to DVD at Walmart, whatever.
Yeah.
I have foreign release, all that kind of thing. Now, when internet piracy kicked in, let's say maybe like, when would you say it got really strong? Maybe like after 05, when the internet speeds got really, when the download speeds got really fast.
I'd say
it got
when I
serious.
started being able to get legit bootleg movies, yeah. When did Lord of the Rings Two Towers come out? Because that's the first movie I remember coming out, like right when the movie came out, where it was legit quality, where you could just watch that shit.
Yeah, I want to say that was at like 2010.
I don't know. Two Tower. I don't know. It was.
Yeah.
I think you're about right. Like if I remember, Napster like was 99-ish, somewhere.
Right.
I was in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and we were pornos and shit in college at first, but like wide release movies. That was probably like 2006, 2007, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So like, and I'll go back and tell you a funny story about downloading movies over Napster and over share sites in a second. But speaking of frailty,
Did you get that letter?
Oh no, this is about frailty. But it's really funny. But after the movies, after you could get movies online that quickly in 06, 07, the studios at that point didn't know what they were going to do, because they're like, well, wait a minute, these people are getting the movie 8 hours after it came out.
Yeah.
So like, how do we make money when they're selling it across the internet? So they've been panicking about that for the last decade. And so now you're talking about, we have to release it in theaters, or maybe we can't even release it in theaters. So we've lost an entire window of profit we were expecting to make. So any kind of streaming money that they're making now, that's great, but they're losing that distribution money that they thought they were getting for theaters. So, it's a serious point of, well, what do we do going forward? Because how do we guarantee we can make our money back? How do you make a movie for a third less?
Well, there's like two movies right now where like they, and coincidentally they're Marvel and DC movies, but that Black Widow movie and that Wonder Woman movie, that I think they were already supposed to be out, months ago, but they're just holding them. Do you think that Marvel, or like even like the biggest movie companies that have these like big story arcs and these huge plans in the future, do you think that they're even going to bother with filming some of it? Because I saw somewhere where like the new Thor movie, they were talking about casting and stuff. Do you think that's even on the table anymore? Are they just going to be like wait and see, or they're just going to forge ahead and hope that the movie industry sort of rights itself once, I guess, maybe there's a vaccine and everyone's comfortable being around each other again?
I think that they're going to try to push through, because so much of their money is depending on investors and people having confidence in the fact that they can make movies and turn profits. So they'll probably do things to make it seem like, well, we're taking every measure to be safe, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. But for them to just back away and say, no, we can't do this, it's not responsible, that's not very typical. So,
some guy like, I gotta pay for this fucking Tesla, guys. I gotta make fucking Spy Kids 25. Okay, this has to happen. Fuck these kids.
Yeah, there's a lot of money and a lot of futures and a lot tied up in that. So they're not just going to back away to do the responsible thing. They'll do everything they can to be safe. And I think they will. I don't think that'll just be lip service. I think they really will try to be as safe as they can be. But at the same time, we have to remember that it's people's livelihoods. These are jobs. These are families. So there's a lot of people who want to work.
It's so crazy to think about all, like, just for that. I mean, everybody, there's so many people out of work just in period for everything. But just in terms of the movies, every movie, even the small budget movies, there's like 15 guys, 20 guys on a small one that, they are living check to check every fucking week, just to sort of be in LA and try to be in that world. And now it's like, what the fuck are they doing?
Oh yeah. I mean, what about What about your lower budget indie films that are now going to be paying this COVID insurance on top of everything? This could destroy so many of the, those just barely getting made indie films. Now they're going to have to pay a COVID premium on top of everything.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if that's scalable or you just like, it's basically, it's got to be this, because I mean, obviously if it's like a Marvel movie, they're going to have to have way more, but there's got to be some sort of minimum. And even that's got to be astronomical in terms of the cost. So
right.
I don't
and
know.
Just your day-to-day on-set things that have to be done. There's at least 2-3 new positions that are going to be created on sets now because of this, some kind of COVID compliance officer.
Okay, well, I'm going to add that to my resume. I'll just be putting that in. But you're right about that. I mean, yeah, there's going to be more crew to account for this. But then, I mean, man, what a fucking thing to have to try to plan for if you're a producer or something like that. Fuck all that.
Right.
Jesus. I'll be doing animation for, somebody. Like, you know what? These Simpsons guys got to figure it out. We're just going to keep, I guess Fox, that's what they're like, you know what, Simpsons, we were going to cancel you, but you know what? Keep this train rolling. We got to keep this moving.
Yeah, I think they're just waiting until they seamlessly transition over to synthesized versions of the voices now. And it's just a matter of the actors are getting checks and they're not even going in.
I didn't even think of how fucking dark is that. It's just a robot writing, voicing, and animating the whole shit. They're like,
right?
This robot's great. Matt Groening's been dead for 150 years. The show is going strong. This story's incredible.
I mean, I'm not saying they're doing that now, but that can be done now. They can completely synthesize those voices and make them say whatever they want and not even have them come in.
I mean, the shit you can do just as knowing how to edit video and audio is insane. Just that in and of itself, like base level, what I can do, which is the most basic of basic, is you can make something that's not in exist. You can definitely skew the fuck out of it. And the fact that you can just straight up synthesize, I mean, just with what I've recorded of my voice on this podcast, somebody could literally pull all the words out and make me say whatever the fuck that, some insane shit where you're sitting there as the whoever's the victim of that, almost being like, am I fucking crazy? Did I say that? Because it's your fucking voice. But man, it's weird to think, especially now. I wonder how much that happens, like for the news and stuff. I wonder if that really happens where they're like, you know what? We got fucking 20 minutes of this guy talking. See if you can get him to say some crazy shit. We're going to make it sound like some audio, like an audio leak or some shit. I wonder how dirty that is.
I mean, I don't think it's too often, only because when you watch anything really, and I know you hear and see this all the time, there's so much sloppy editing that goes into professional grade work. And when I say sloppy, I don't necessarily mean that you have bad editors. Sometimes you don't see something or you lose time to get it done. But sometimes you'll see that the lip syncing isn't correct or something doesn't match. So I think that if we were getting synthesized voices that regularly, we wouldn't see all of the little mistakes we do, commonly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, just listening to like when I have to edit the podcast, my compunction to say the word like, I used to look down on people that said that. People that overuse the like, it's like, but I do that. And having to hear your voice, dude, it's terrifying sometimes to just listen to you just sitting there going, should I edit this out? I sound shit, but I'm not going to do that. So it's that one thing as a positive, it's almost made me more, I mean, I try to be careful with what not really, I shouldn't say that. I don't try to be careful with what I say, but just being observant of that kind of shit, it's definitely improved me in that regard. But I will say, I bet, I know Aaron's not on this call, but all that stuff about voice altering, God, he would be into a 20-minute rant on some sort of insane conspiracy regarded. I could just hear it. I can hear the air tingling just an anticipation of that shit. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of you wonder about that sometimes. Sometimes you see things where it doesn't seem like, you know, a normal person would say or do that kind of thing. But I mean, that's just where the state of the game right now. I think everything you watch on TV or if it's news, every day I'm like pulling my hair out. Like, really? Are we in a simulation? Because this seems too fucking stupid to be like, this can't be real. I thought I was going to
Simulation
grow
theory.
up. And this is the most disappointing thing about being, I guess, I don't consider myself like a great adult, but I used to think you'd get to a certain age and you'd see the people around you and you'd realize, you know, like, oh, okay, these adults, like, I'm an adult now. I understand shit. But then you get to a certain age, whatever that is, you know, I'm 37 now, and you realize, like, no one knows what the fuck is going on here. Like, no one's at the wheel of this fucking thing, really. And even the people you think have it together, when you really dig a little deeper, you're like, I think you're kind of wacky. Something's going on here. So that's been a disappointing thing that I've started to see where I'm old. I've realized that, but I don't feel like an adult. And I'm wondering if that's just is that how all adults are? Is that how my dad is? Like, that's what he says. So is that how some 9-year-old guy is?
You know, I think it's a couple of things. Well, first, the confirmation that for me of what you just said, that nobody's at the wheel, we're all on our own, it's all going to spin out of control. The confirmation of that for me was the election of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And it's not that, like, I'm independent. I don't really see the system the same way anymore. So I don't support Trump or Hillary or anybody. You know, whatever. They're all politicians. That's how I look at them.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it because I hated Trump or I love Trump or anything like that. But the reason is because, forgetting who he is for a second, just take a look at his background. Basically, Donald Trump was the Paris Hilton of the 80s. You know, of the 70s and 80s. He was a socialite person. He was a business guy or whatever in TV, but he was the TV version.
He was a joke. He was like he was a punchline to comedians' jokes about New York City and just like fucking, you know, shitty rich white people, basically.
Right. And, you know, I'm like, so the idea that guy could later on go on to be the president, and it's not like he went on and became a serious person. He got more ridiculous by the decade. So he was a reality TV show host by the end, and then he became the president. So once I saw that, I said, okay, well, obviously the system that is so secretly run by all of the Trilateral Bilderberg Commission groups, someone is asleep at the wheel, because a carnival barker just got into the Oval Office. I mean, and I know everybody's going to say, well, that's the con. Because what? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Sure.
And hold that thought. I gotta piss so bad. I'll be right back, dude. Hold that thought. Sorry about that. I had to piss so bad. But Sean, you were saying about, you know, Trump being a carnival barker and he got in, and that's the con. That's what everybody says. That's a conspiracy theorist. Like, here's what's crazy. What you said is, I completely agree with everything you said, first of all. But this guy is so polarizing that even the people who are conspiracy theorists have locked in on either he's the guy who got in who's going to reveal all the secrets. See, that's the other crazy thing, is there's still people that think somewhere deep down inside that this guy's going to come out at some point, maybe when he loses the election, and be like, this is what is actually going on. Aliens exist. They killed Kennedy. These people are fucking evil. But that's not, you know, what I think happened in reality is that he got insulted when Barack Obama, at that, you know, way back in the day, Barack Obama was the president. It was that the dinner they have with the press. Well, I forget what the fuck that's called, the correspondence dinner. And he made a joke about Trump he's like, you know, one thing that you'll never be that I am is president. And Trump heard that, and then he got pissed the fuck off and did some white people shit and said, you know what? I'm going to fucking do this shit. And he got in. And what's crazy about everything that you said, keeping that in mind, is that he is doubling down every week with some new dumbass shit that will come out of his fucking mouth, to the point where I read a story this morning when I got up where I was like, I'm turning the computer off. I'm not even going to go into it. Where he's now saying that he's basically the white man's vote. He's who the white man should vote for. Like, I think he's literally said that, something of that nature. So it's like, if he realizes that he's alienated somebody, he's like, well, the black people aren't going to vote for me now. It's whatever. So now I'm going to double down on these racists. And I think we got enough racists that I'm just going to, you know what, fuck it. I feel like whoever his marketing guy, or maybe it's just his insane coke-addled brain that's coming up with these things. It's just, he got in and he's that crazy of a dude that he's there. Like, that's the quality of our country right now, where that guy got in, he's running things, and God forbid if he wins again, dude. That's what I'm really afraid about. If speaking about living in LA, like, if he does win, I mean, a city like LA that's filled with like liberal people, or like any city like that, like you see it happening in Portland throughout this whole thing, where they're just politically so polarized that they're rioting and stuff. I'm worried like they're just gonna be like, fuck it, burn it to the ground, y'all, fuck this shit. Like, it seriously was something I'm worried about. But it is crazy that we basically got Jimmy the Mouth of the South Hart as president. Somebody is up. Like, I'd even more respect that guy. At least he'd have like a nice attire. He'd come with a new airbrush jacket every week. But
right,
I mean, Jesus, dude, it's so crazy. And it's like something that, as you know, I've always been like conspiratorial. I'm a pothead, and that goes hand in hand with sort of thinking of going into sort of conspiracies with your buddies and stuff. And I don't trust politicians at all. But whatever this is like an amalgamation of the dirtiness of politics with the added like shittiness of internet culture, where somebody that's so dumb can get so much attention that they become this powerful of a person that everyone wants to hear what they say all the time, no matter what it is. If you think about it, it's like the Howard Stern thing. People tune in because they hate him or they love him. So everyone's listening. So basically anything this guy says, whether it's whatever, I mean, you name it. Name one of the dumb fucking things he said. Everyone knows about it.
Yeah.
I can't
I think
think of somebody like that, even a president.
Well, I think the real scary part is that we need to believe that someone in that high of an office, or any really elected official of some high level, we need to believe that they're really smart, that they're smarter than all of us. That's why we can believe they're engaged in all these deep conspiracy theories. But if we really look at it, I don't think that the evidence lines up with that, because take a look at any politician. I'm not going to pick on Biden, Trump, Harris, Pence. Pick any of them. Pick Pelosi, Schumer. Pick all of them. I can give you hours of video of them saying things that are so inane, it's so ridiculous that you're like, wait, are they speaking English? Like those words all belong together, but not in the same sentence or in that order. Like they're saying incoherent things over decades, right? So it's either that these people are all Kaiser Soze and they're just acting with the greatest con in history, or these are just people who are charismatic, they have leadership qualities, and they have convinced everybody that they should listen to them. But really, they don't. What are their original thoughts? What are they thinking that some person who gave them stats didn't tell them? Yeah. Right? Is that an evil genius? Did you see Dr. Claw on Inspector Gadget having his cat actually give him all the secret commands and then he says it? No, Dr. Claw was running it. So, that's not our politicians. They're not running anything. They're nothing without their staff.
I mean, and what's funny is with him, he doesn't give a fuck about his staff. He's like, I'm the guy talking. I don't give a. Oh, you're a pandemic expert? Go fuck yourself.
Right? How did we get to the point where surgical masks are now somehow tied to who you're voting for?
Yeah, I know.
How did that happen?
It's like, hey, do you want to survive a pandemic? Fuck you. You're gonna, it's like a political thing. How the fuck? I don't get it. I mean, we went to the store today, dude, and it was just like a small thing, but they had to announce like, hey, can everybody get, observe the social distancing, beyond the little dots and stuff. And you see this guy like in the aisle next to me, like whisper to his like son or some shit. He's like, this is just so Dude, this is all fucking a hoax. Why are they even doing this? It's like, dude, shut the I had an apple in my hand. I was like, I should just fucking peg this dude. But I mean, it's a weird time, man. It's definitely, I'm glad to hear that maybe you can get, LA's not really something you got to worry about. I think that's a good thing. And also, I've been to Nashville, bro. It's a beautiful place. I mean, it's definitely a cool place. I don't know what it's like at this moment, but it's something I think will be good for you guys too. So that's really cool, man. That's definitely cool to hear.
I've heard good things about it, and like I said, it's not that I hate moving there because I'm excited about the opportunity, and it's not that I like leaving LA because I hate that the idea that isn't it kind of weird that to go forward in production and entertainment you have to go somewhere else outside of LA. That's becoming a trend that people are leaving.
I mean, I remember it being talked about. Everybody's like, oh, Atlanta, or and some like Michigan for a while was one of those places,
right?
States where like the tax breaks and stuff worked out. And it seemed like, yeah, that maybe if you're shooting, like just for shooting, but now it almost seems like the infrastructure of just like the entertainment industry is almost like, they're all owned by like these conglomerates and all these like fund hedge, whoever the ultimate person who owns it. So it's almost like maybe LA's utility of being like the central entertainment hub. It'll be interesting, man. It definitely is. Like with the theaters going down and all that stuff that we just talked about. It's as somebody, I'm going to be here. I don't know how long. I might be moving myself, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like what it looks like when it is. Finally everybody can kind of take a breath and not have to worry about the pandemic so much. Whenever that is. I mean, in terms of a vaccine, as somebody who people will say whatever. I've heard crazy shit where they were almost saying like October was a possibility. But I talked to I have a oncologist who's, I have to talk to them still every month or every other month now. But they're like my second or third mom, dude. Like, this lady, lady has been with me through all of it. And we had a call with her Friday, and I was like, what do you think about these vaccines? And she's like, well, first of all, she's like, don't listen to what you're hearing on TV because it's not reality. And I was like, okay, well, that's kind of what I thought. That makes sense. And I was like, well, what, for me, because I have to get it whenever it comes out, whatever it is, like I'm going to be put on some sort of a list whenever she approves of it. And she was like, I'm never going to allow you to take something I wouldn't take. And for you, I don't think that there's gonna be something realistic until this, maybe she made it seem like this time or maybe like August of next year.
Yeah.
When you could widely available possibly get a vaccine that's safe. But I don't, that's a long time, man. That's a long time for the city and for all those costs and stuff. So it will be interesting to see if all these big movies happen, because as somebody who loves blockbuster movies, that's my shit. I love them. I grew up on them. Like all these movies that I'm trashing, when they came out, I was in. I was all fucking in on them. And to this day, when a Marvel movie comes out or something, I do get excited about it, for good or bad. And I'm wondering if that's, it'll be interesting to see if that continues. Because to me, the positive that might happen is people like us that know how to produce something from an idea to the finished product, our value instantly goes way up. I feel like maybe there's some instances where whenever it is, people that have that ability might be a little more valuable than what's in now, because I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think maybe smaller movies might, you said maybe that's not a possibility, but I think that might be more of a possibility to come back on. There might be a small, like a low budget movie renaissance coming out of this a little bit, because that's all that's going to be affordable, Maybe
that's possible, yeah.
To that. That'd be interesting too. There's a positive note. See, it's not all negative.
Oh yeah, no, there's definitely a positive possibilities to come out of it. And I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I think that more in the commercial real estate part of entertainment, theaters and that sort of stuff, they have a more serious situation to really look forward to right now. But the studios, they're shuffling projects, they're doing whatever. So I don't know how their books work.
Yeah,
but
right.
I don't think we're going to be seeing like, major studios just crumbling by the end of the year or anything like that. As far as what you were saying about a vaccine, I've been looking at people talk about this, and I can't believe that they're talking about how quickly they want to line up and take this vaccine. Because
can you believe that, dude?
yeah, all I do is I think about it, I'm like, all right, before COVID, how long did it take from start to finish to get a vaccine developed and approved by the FDA? And is that number greater or less than what you're saying for the COVID vaccine? Because if it's greater than for the COVID vaccine, I want to follow it. And if it's less than for the COVID vaccine, then we'll follow the COVID one.
Yeah.
But we both know what the answer to that is.
Well,
So,
my thing is, like, if they do, like, if they roll it out, right, and it usually takes years. So people that want to put something in their body, you're just going to line up and just put some shit into your body. To what? So you can go out and party? Like, I don't understand what you're, like, it's not the working. I don't think that maybe it is. Maybe that is it. But, man, you got to really be careful. That's one thing where I get it, dude. Of whatever you want to call this, like pandemic fatigue or just like, it's fucking boring, dude. It is boring just to be like, live this kind of non-changing, stagnant life where, for me, I've kind of embraced like working out and shit to fill that time, which I've always done anyway, but it's kind of helped. But man, I get wanting to go out and do shit, but it ain't worth just being like, oh, you said this is going to fix me? What is this? No, you know what? Never mind. Fuck it. You said 2 weeks? You've been looking at this for 2 weeks? Good. Put it in me. That's a hell of a roll of the dice, man. Like, fuck.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and all for what? Because you just want to get back to normal. I mean, like you said, I understand the fatigue part of it, but to just let them give you a vaccine that can do God knows what and how long it'll take for it to happen. What if it's something that gets passed on to your children that you have later? They give you a vaccine and it does something, gives your kids some kind of defect or whatever, and you didn't know that because you were rushing to get a vaccine. That's crazy. I don't understand how people can just want the same government that couldn't decide when and what to do about this situation. You're running to them to give you an injection.
Yeah, and if it was like the whole world working together, where it's like, hey, one world, we have to figure this out. So China, all these people that are working against each other politically and nationally, that goes away because we have this bigger thing to worry about. If that was the case, I could understand maybe that timeline of a vaccine sort of maybe being shortened a little bit.
Right.
But that's not the case.
No.
In fact, it seems like everyone that would be like, this vaccine will kill you, Trump's like, they're not worth it. We're cutting all ties. Listen to me. It's becoming very fucking squirrely with that. So I'm blessed that I have this lady. Unfortunately, it's because I had cancer, but she looks out for me. So I have that lady sort of on the forefront, because anybody that's a doctor of blood cancers is also sort of an expert in immune systems, and obviously COVID is something tied into that, how you can combat that and whatnot. So I trust them, and it's one of those things where some people don't trust their doctors. I'm lucky that I do, and I'm gonna go ahead and listen to her and not take anything that comes out next week. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for not if whatever they're gonna release in a couple months or whatever is like the Rhino XL gas station dick pill. I'll wait for the Viagra to come out before I, go out into public again. But it's definitely, as somebody who's seen a lot of dark movies and shit, it does seem like a lot of these things I've seen in like some fucked up movie somewhere where you're just sitting there waiting for people to come to their senses, but it's just not happening. But I'm glad to hear that you're not crazy. A lot of the people that I respect are still here. They're still standing, and I still respect them. Other people, not so much. I mean, I can name names on Facebook, but let's just say I see what you're posting. Stop with it. You're white. There's no reason to say these things. I mean, but I don't know, man. It's funny. But I do want to bring up something funny just since I have you here. It's something before we go. You know, we met when we worked. I don't mind saying who we worked for, but we worked for that company that we subsequently didn't work for because of certain reasons. But we started out. We were writing, and then I thought of this because, bro, I'll be honest with you. What I'm about to ask you involves one of the biggest failures of my life personally. That's something that I get douche chills about to this day when I think about it. Do you remember when I did open mic stand-up comedy?
All I can say to that is kaboom.
Dude, here's why I hate thinking about it, right? Because when I went up on stage, whatever happened after I got onto the stage, mentally, I blacked out. I don't know what I said or how I came off. I could have been going, just drooling out of my mouth, which may have happened, but I just want to make sure that happened and I didn't have some sort of fugue state blackout that I just made this up. So you do remember it.
I do. I remember the place where it happened. I just passed by there the other day.
Liquid Zoo.
Yeah, the Liquid Zoo. So I can tell this story because as one of the three other people who was there that night.
Why did I invite anyone to go there, dude? Why?
Well, because at the time it was part of this, and not to get all deep or whatever, but it was part of that jump you were making from writing comedy to performing comedy. So it was kind of like, it's not that you were trying to be a stand-up comedian, but it was more like you were just exploring an area of your craft.
Yeah.
So it was, it wasn't like, oh, Matt's going to be the next, whatever. It was just that you were trying a different area of your life. And so we were going for that reason. And
sounds like I got raped. It's like, and then this happened.
So it's not like he was asking for it, but no. What I can say is that there were comedians who were there who were regulars who they came and they tried out material all the time, and I know that because I would see them at the bar talking to other people or talking about the last time they were here or whatever, and they didn't get any laughs at all. they would go up, and it's not that they were bombing, it's just that their material wasn't landing. It just wasn't right.
My comedy, like, I don't think that like, I'd say 95% of my comedy there's no laughs. You're just performing to other comedians, probably.
Right. But with yours, I mean, you got genuine laughs from the audience. So it was your first time ever doing stand-up, and you were getting actual laughs from the audience. So it was great. God. It wasn't anything that you should be ashamed of. It was definitely something I wish we had on that we recorded.
I just don't. Here's why I'm ashamed of it, dude. I literally can't. I blacked out, dude. I must have been so stressed out about doing it because it was like you want to do well, and I've never done anything like that, and I love stand-up comedy, so maybe I put some pressure on myself. But thank God, dude. This is like I can move on from this now. There's a weight lifted off my shoulders where I was like, did I pull my dick out? Like, I just laughed. Like,
it's like, hey, everybody look at me. I'm 1 part robot and 3 parts asshole.
Jesus Christ.
I wanted to get out of there because all I remember is getting off the stage being like, what happened? And then some guy was like, hey, man, like, you did pretty good. And I was like, oh, God, I must have just... Sean's still talking to me, so at least not.
Well, so hearing your memory of it, then it sounds like I think this is probably something you'll get right away. Have you ever been at a party and you talk to somebody, you see them from the time you get there to the time you leave, and they're fine, they're just normal, and then you see them the next day and you talk to them and they're like, I saw you last night, and you're like, wait, yeah, we talked all night, and they're like, oh, I blacked out. I don't have any memory at all.
I blacked out, bro. I was out.
Yeah, so
was
like,
completely.
but have you ever like known somebody this happened to? Like they just blacked out, but you thought they were sober. You're like, wait, you blacked out? I thought you were sober.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened with you then. Like
That's
you just blacked out,
hilarious.
but it was like, no, what are you talking about? You were on. It was great.
Hey man, well fuck. I should have recorded it. But hey, see now, dude, thank God, dude. I feel like a huge way. You have no idea. I've gone to sleep at night thinking about that and just got like severe douche chills.
Wow.
I was like, oh God, Sean doesn't respect me. And like, no wonder. How could I think I could do something? That's hilarious, dude.
I was always disappointed that you didn't do it again. Like
I was just so afraid.
Wow.
I was like,
Yeah, I
I'm
never
just
knew
gonna
that.
black out again. I was just gonna.
Wow.
I thought about it, dude, because I used to be a psycho and jog all the time, and I used to jog past that place all the time and be like, "You're gonna go back there this Thursday," but I never did. I kept writing jokes. Like I still have a book full of that shit, but that's absolutely hilarious. That actually is so big. That's funny.
That was great.
Go if you want to try open mic stand-up comedy to the 5 people listening to this podcast. Sure, it might be humiliating, but you might just black out and just maybe do okay. You'll never know. It doesn't matter. You're blacked out, so just give it a shot.
Every Thursday night at 9 p.m.
I wonder if the dildo lady's still there.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about her for a very good reason, I think. But oh man,
she died
I gotta look that up,
bro. She died of Oh, it's on YouTube, bro. I believe me. I've looked it up.
Oh yeah,
look up liquid tube dildos.
How are we doing on time, Richie?
2 more minutes.
Oh, excellent. This is perfect because we're going to do the dildo song with my swimsuit top on. I'd like for you to take a picture, Richie, if you wouldn't mind. The buttery nipples. Yeah, they're the official drink of Titty Tuesday, but it's Monday and really late Sunday. So, okay, I'll just put it right here. You know how, and you can put it, you can play with it and get it closer for the part. So we're gonna do the dildo song tonight. You look good for a mom of 3. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's that condition of for a mom of 3. So, but it was a little bit inspirational. So I decided to run with it. So tonight we're gonna do the dildo song. Dildo, D-I-L-D-O, 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 and dildo was its name. Oh, I-L-D-O, 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 and dildo was its name. Oh, I felt just like a penis. Oh, 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 and dildo was its name. Oh.
It's right up there with some other stand-up comedy that we know from a certain radio host that decided to get into stand-up comedy.
off podcast. I want to ask you about that for sure. That guy. Well, dude, you know what, man? I appreciate you coming on and doing this. I hope that the next time that we do this, whenever we can get you on again, that Aaron can be a part of this, because I think another cool thing that we could do is just sort of talk about what we did out here a little bit, and also we can sort of get into the film industry a little bit more and just, chop it up a little bit, remember some ridiculous shit that we did out here in LA together. But thank you so much for being on the show, dude. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Anytime.
Of course, man. Well, you created like almost a mini conspiracy podcast with me in Aaron's absence. So, is what he would normally do. I like that. But yeah, man. So everyone listening, let's thank Sean for being on here. He's definitely going to be on again. And thanks for listening to episode 21 of Ain't Life Funny. We'll see you next week, y'all. Peace.